Welcome back to BTN Live as we continue our conversation on the weekend's marquee Big Ten matchup, Wisconsin at Ohio State, the Saturday night primetime game. And for more on the Badgers and the Buckeyes, we welcome in the voice of Ohio State athletics, Paul Keels. Paul, let's start with a comment that Urban Meyer made earlier this week, calling Wisconsin the, quote, kings of the hill in the Big Ten. Of course, Urban hasn't lost since he got to Columbus. Does he truly believe that statement, or in your mind, is that just motivation for his players?
It's probably a little bit of both, Rick. I think he believes it, and I think he's got a lot of respect for what Wisconsin has done over the years. But also, that's something that I think it helps get the attention of the Ohio State players, as if they needed any more help with that, about what lies ahead and what they face. They felt like they had really made a major achievement in beating Wisconsin and Madison last year. But I think it's also something acknowledging this is a team that's been to, 3 straight Rose Bowls. They've been to the Big Ten championship game 2 years in a row. So I think it's a matter of respect, but also probably a matter of motivation.
There's no doubt, Paul, the biggest storyline surrounding Ohio State, the quarterback position. And Urban said earlier this week, if Braxton Miller has a good week of practice, he'll start. All indications are that that's the case. So why do you think that Urban is waiting until we assume game time, maybe even pregame warmups, to officially or at least publicly announce who will get the start?
I think, Rick, because of what happened last weekend, there was really a hope that Braxton Miller would play in the game against Florida A&M. I think the plan all along had been to start Kenny Guyton, but they were hoping they could have gotten Braxton in to run a few series just to knock some of the rust off. And some of it's probably just from a precautionary measure in case something happened. We don't know what the result of the Thursday practice was and anything they do on a walkthrough on Friday, and if there's any lingering after effects. But, on the call-in show that we did with the coach on Thursday this week, he gave the indication that Braxton looks like he's close to 100% from a health standpoint. But there is a great comfort factor with this football team knowing that if something were to happen, they have faith they can win with Kenny Guyton based on what he's done in the last 2 games, actually last 3 games.
Paul, somewhat lost in all this quarterback talk has been the play of Jordan Hall, who's been outstanding at the running back position. Of course, Carlos Hyde came back from that suspension a week ago, didn't get a lot of run, as most of the starters didn't. They didn't need him against Florida A&M. Does that remain Jordan Hall's backfield, or do you sense that Urban Meyer and OC Tom Herman may want to work Hyde in a little bit more?
I don't think there's any question, Rick. They want to work Carlos Hyde in. And they've also got faith in what they potentially can get from Rod Smith, who's a junior that plays back there, as well as Ezekiel Elliott and Dontre Wilson. But, what they're hoping is that Hall and Hyde give them kind of that change of pace. Hall is a guy that has racked up 2 100-yard games this year. He's an elusive guy. He's a guy they really had hoped to use as kind of a slot back, H-back type of role. But with the way he's run the football, they seem to really still kind of hang on to him into that traditional tailback spot. And we all know what Carlos Hyde can give this team. He can give them a physical presence that none of the other running backs really do. An experienced guy, got almost to 1,000 yards a year ago. So I think the hope is to be able to get as much mileage as possible out of both of them. And, it's a nice problem that this coaching staff has, not only with the tailbacks, but with the wide receiving group, too.
Paul, defensively, the prevailing thought is that Ohio State will put 8, sometimes 9 guys in the box and tell Wisconsin, if you're going to beat us, Joel Stave has to be the guy. Is that conventional wisdom going to be correct?
Well, I think there's reason to think that could happen at some times, and a lot of that, Rick, has to do with the experience they have in the secondary. And when you've got a Bradley Roby, a Christian Bryant, a C.J. Barnett, and in the other corner, Duran Grant, who really has looked good early on here in the first season as a starter. And they've gotten outstanding play from their extra defensive backs, Tyvis Powell, Corey Brown. They're guys that they feel very good about. So I don't know that we'll sit there and say that you'll see that every down, but there certainly would be probably a good guess there'd be some comfort from the defensive coaching staff if they decide to show that at times.
Paul, before we let you go, a year ago at this time, of course, Ohio State was also unbeaten, but everyone knew the year would end after the Michigan game. Clearly not the case in 2013. Do you sense a different feeling, a different atmosphere around this team because of what the possibilities are this year?
For the most part, Rick, however, one of the things that they did such a good job of last year, and they continue to do this year, is focus on what's next. And, most of what you hear from these coaches and these players is about Wisconsin. They'll worry about Northwestern the following week and so on and so on. And that was something they did a very good job of last year. Maybe that kind of helped deflect the fact that there wasn't going to be anything after the Michigan game. But it starts from Urban Meyer. It goes through the coaching staff, and it filters down to the players when you hear them interviewed. Their focus is just about Wisconsin And I think what helps that, too, is coming straight from Urban Meyer as well. They realize that while this team has great potential, they have great talent, and they've had some great performances, they have a great understanding that they need to improve.
Paul Keels, voice of the Ohio State Buckeyes, joining us here on BTN Live. Paul, thanks as always for the time. Look forward to seeing you in the press box in Columbus tomorrow afternoon.
My pleasure, Rick. Look forward to seeing you.